Juan Prada from the Coalition on Homelessness. So a few words.
I'm proud of the Coalition on Homelessness, and they have to be here with all these folks that know so much about the criminalization of people and how it's been happening for so many years. I was just with Mr. Garrett was saying that, you know, there's this thing that all these things have been happening for a long people and then for a long time and to these people, and no one is doing anything. It's just not me, it's just someone else, and then all of a sudden we're all criminals. And I think probably no other group maybe of the social structure of our country has been suffering this as homeless people. I can't think of anyone that you just assume that for being homeless you have no rights. And you get to a point in which we internalize that situation. That some years ago we did a registration drive for people to vote at shelters, and a lot of folks say, "Oh no, I can't do that. I'm homeless." No, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I cannot vote because I'm not an American citizen. You can't. You know, you can't do that. You don't have to have anything as a residence to be that. But you internalize that because that's your daily experience in the streets. And you can't do anything like that unless you start by following a very clear pattern. You start to first by demonize a group of people. You need to choose a group of people, and the only way that you can actually direct that sort of public wrath against people is by making, hey, they're not you, they're someone else than you. So the first step is to demonize that group and say, they urinate and defecate in your front door. They bring down the property values. They camp in front of your business. Whatever situation you want to use, and you start to repeat that message and create that idea, and people feed on that. And after that, you get into the second step, which is a strange sensation in the public, but we put so much money into different programs. I donate to charity. People are getting help. Why are these folks not really doing something? And then you come to the next step, which is like, well, maybe they need to be forced to get the help they need so clearly because they're not getting the message. And so you can finally move into a situation in which this group is completely demonized, everybody hates them, they're a problem for everybody else, we're trying to help them so much and they just won't listen, so now we have to throw them in jail and force them to get the services they so desperately need. Okay, and at the same time that I'm going to be doing that, I will be cutting my budget on the services that I need to be providing. And so at the same time, in order to access those incredible services that are not being funded, you have to bump someone who was in a waiting list because he wanted to get those services out because I have to make room for the guy that just went through the court. And again, we keep seeing that pattern again. With homeless people, we see about 15 to 18,000 changes a year of citations for infractions. Infractions that people will typically not do jail time because it's the equivalent of you having a parking ticket. You have to pay a fine for that. But you're homeless, you don't pay the fine. You don't show up in court. Oh, there's a bench warrant. All of a sudden, that is a worse crime than what you did. And then they arrested you, and then you were thrown in jail, and then you end up with the situation that the sheriff department reports that about 48% of their inmates at any given time might be homeless folks. I have my office in probably it's got to be this year the most violent corner of the city. I don't have to walk more than 100 steps on each direction, and I'll have a murder scene, actually 3. And that's been this year only. We have assaults, drug dealing on a daily basis, and in any case, what we're going to be doing about it, let's chase the drunks out. I mean, don't you have a real job to do? I mean, don't you have a gun and you wear a big vest? And again, there's a lot of police officers that are as frustrated from that situation as we are. I mean, I don't think that people get, when they're a kid and I'm going to be a cop when I grow up and I'm going to be chasing homeless people down. I mean, some of them really seem to get a kick out of it, but it's not really what you expect from a police department. These are highly trained, and you know what? We have 32 of them operating as homeless outreach officers. I mean, I'm just going to be a fiscal conservative. Social workers are much cheaper. Canada used to do that. They you know, they overtime, they do overtime, they're really, you know, easy labor to get, they got a master's degree. Why do you need to be using the cops? I got 3 murders on my front door. Can you put your work into that? No, we need to chase homeless people. We need to create a new court for that.
But why are the drug dealers dealing the drugs in the first place? Is criminalizing petty drug dealers a solution in the long run?
No, I don't think that criminalizing small-time drug dealers is a solution at any point. I just think that in any case, if you're going to be thinking about priorities, then you have to prioritize. I would think that drug dealing is a little bit more of a problem than someone is sleeping on the sidewalk. But again, going back to the thing is how you're looking at this, at the folks, and how you created that situation in the first place. And it's by repeating that insane proposition that
are introducing drugs into neighborhoods.
We'll have some time at the end, so I will be gone in a minute.
Keep going, sir.
So basically, you know, we're looking again at the homeless population. It's a group of people that seems to be a great nuisance, and again, we try to ignore other things, that 20% of them are not even visible to us, and that's a very important part of the whole politics about how to deal with homeless people. We're talking about the 20% or less that we see on the streets. Because if we start actually digging in what homelessness is about poverty, is about not having money to afford the rent, it's about 40% of the homeless people being families with children, not the guys that you see on the street. And that can be easily ignored as long as we keep focusing on demonizing a small group of people, making them a problem for others, and being able to, that way, to divert the resources into the police and having cops operating as outreach workers, as special courts, separate tribunals. And that's what we're going to be looking at the Tenderloin if we're not able to stop, for instance, this idea of a community court that sounds great, but it basically forces homeless people to say, yes, I'm guilty, so please put me on some kind of treatment. That's exactly what the proposal that we have right now is coming, is the Mid-Manhattan proposal. I'm just astonished that San Francisco is a place that needs to frame their homeless policy on what Rudy Giuliani, a leading Republican candidate, did in New York, and that's what we're getting. We need to clean up Golden Gate Park, because I went to New York and I just went to Central Park, and I seem to be cursed by it. I used to live in New York, I end up here. They seem to be chasing me around with that kind of ideas. But if we don't start again looking at local solutions, thinking that this is what we need to be looking as a community, as not allowing for the demonization of different groups of people who are not allowed for that special persecution and for throwing people in jail for the crime of just being too poor to live in the society.
Thank you.